Last summer I decided to explore the lesser-known trails of West Virginia. I was looking for new spots to photograph and wanted to connect with nature. I had camped before, but this felt different. I was ready for inspiration. I arrived in a remote area near a small town. It was surrounded by tall trees and steep hills. The first night, I set up my tent next to an old abandoned shack. Everything was quiet, almost too quiet. I figured it would be a peaceful start to my adventure. As night fell, I noticed a flickering light in the distance. I thought maybe it was another camper's fire, but curiosity got the best of me. I aimed my camera at it, but as soon as I focused, the light vanished. I shrugged it off. I often let my imagination run wild in the dark. On the second night, the light returned. This time it was closer. My heart raced as I stepped out of my tent. I called out, "Hey, anyone there?" My voice echoed into silence. I walked about 50 yards, flashlight in hand, and just when I thought I'd found it, the light disappeared again. I stood there, breathing fast. Maybe it was nothing. I returned to my tent, feeling a heavy dread settle over me. The shadows seemed to move, and I kept telling myself it was just animals rustling nearby. The third night, things got weirder. Laughter floated through the woods. It was faint but distinct. I sat up in my sleeping bag, straining to hear better. "Hello?" I called. The giggles faded, replaced by whispers I couldn't understand. A chill ran down my spine. I pulled my sleeping bag tighter and peeked outside. Only shadows greeted me. I tried to ignore it. Maybe I was just tired. But the laughter came back, louder than before. I felt as if someone or something was watching me. Each night, the flickering light appeared again, creeping closer until it vanished as I reached for it. When I ventured into town, the locals felt off. Their eyes lingered too long on me. Once I mentioned the light, and they exchanged uneasy glances. I couldn't shake the feeling that they knew more than they let on. Was I the only one seeing this? On my last night, I stood at the edge of the woods, heart pounding. The laughter erupted around me, bouncing off the trees. I scanned the darkness, but only shadows stared back. Then a voice whispered, "Why are you here?" I whipped around, but the flickering light disappeared. I was alone in the night, staring into the abyss of the woods. It felt wrong. I didn't know what to do. I hurried back to my tent, but the laughter followed. I could hear faint whispers creeping closer, chilling my bones. As I huddled in my sleeping bag, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stepped into something I couldn't understand. I hadn't just wandered into the woods, I had stumbled into a nightmare. I never wanted to know what truly lurked in those shadows. I just wanted to get out. I woke up the next morning drenched in sweat. The laughter still echoed in my mind, and a sense of dread refused to leave my chest. I decided I could no longer stay in the woods. Packing my things, I tried to shake off the lingering unease. The sunlight felt harsh, almost mocking. As I gathered my gear, I noticed something odd near the shack. A small wooden box lay hidden beneath the debris, half buried in the dirt. My curiosity flared, reminding me of the flickering light and the laughter. Maybe this was a clue. I knelt down and brushed off the dirt. The box was old, with strange symbols carved into its surface. I hesitated. Maybe I shouldn't disturb whatever this was. But something pushed me to open it. I levered it open with my fingers and a sharp creak echoed through the air. Inside, I found a tattered book filled with handwritten notes and drawings of the woods. The notes were cryptic, often referencing a light in the dark and the watchers of the woods. My heart raced as I flipped through the pages. There were sketches of figures that looked like shadows, cloaked in darkness. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Was this what the locals knew? Just then, a rustling sound broke my concentration. I looked up, expecting a deer or perhaps a raccoon, but instead I saw a figure standing at the tree line. It was faint, barely discernible, but it felt rooted in the shadows. My breath hitched in my throat. I blinked and it was gone. I shook my head, trying to clear my mind. It was just my imagination, wasn't it? I forced myself to focus on the task at hand. I packed up the box and my camera, determined to get out before night fell again. As I made my way back towards the trail, I could still feel the eyes on me. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see something lurking behind every tree. I scanned the woods, but they remained quiet, as if holding their secrets close. The trail felt longer than before. The unease within me grew. I wanted to make it back to the car. Maybe if I got to town, I could finally talk to someone who would explain what was happening. I quickened my pace, but as I turned a corner, I saw it again, the flicker of light in the trees. This time it was different. The light danced and weaved, almost beckoning me closer. This was no ordinary flame. It sparkled with an otherworldly glow that sent a rush of adrenaline through my veins. My heart pounded with fear and curiosity. I took a step forward, drawn into the mystery that felt both inviting and dangerous. And that's when I heard the laughter again, louder than before, swirling around me like a dark chorus. Panic surged through my veins. I didn't want to stay here any longer. I wanted to run. But the light pulsed, and I couldn't look away. I was torn between fleeing and finding out what lay ahead. Suddenly the laughter stopped, replaced by an ominous silence. I realized then. I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the fear that threatened to paralyze me. The light flickered again, more insistently this time. I glanced back toward the path I had come from. It felt like a secure escape, but something deep inside urged me to follow the light. With shaky legs, I moved cautiously toward the source. Each step felt heavy, the ground uneven underfoot, almost as if the earth itself wanted to resist my approach. The laughter, now just a quiet echo in my mind, faded away, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves against the gentle wind. As I got closer, the forest opened into a small clearing, bathed in that strange glow. In the center stood a small stone altar, worn and covered in what looked like moss and faint carvings that mirrored the symbols on the box I had found. My heart raced as I approached, the air thick with an unexplainable energy. What intrigued me the most was a single candle flickering on the altar, casting shadows that danced wildly on the stones. I could feel its warmth, even from a distance. I hesitated, my instincts screaming that this was wrong. It felt like an offering, or something meant to call forth whatever haunted these woods. Just as I reached out to touch the candle, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the flame in an instant. The sudden darkness was suffocating. I stumbled back, disoriented, my breath escaping me in rapid spurts. The shadows twisted around me, and for a heartbeat I swore I saw the silhouettes of figures looming at the edge of the trees. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. No response came, but the air thickened, charged with a presence as if the woods themselves were watching. My heart thumped loudly in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears. The laughter returned, distinct and taunting, swirling through the trees. It was as if something was mocking my fear, relishing in my uncertainty. I turned to flee, stumbling over roots and rocks, my mind racing with images from the stories the locals told. The Watchers of the Woods. Were they real? Were they coming for me? Then I remembered the book. I had the answers at my fingertips, but I was trapped in this moment, caught in a web of ancient rituals and unseen forces. I sprinted back toward the path, adrenaline surging through my veins. But the clearing seemed to shift behind me as I ran, the trees closing in like a living barrier. I could hear footsteps, soft, almost childlike, trailing behind me, matching my frantic pace. That's when I felt it, a cold hand wrapping around my wrist, stopping me dead in my tracks. I turned to face the shadows, my breath coming in gasps. There, just outside the light, stood a figure cloaked in darkness. It stared at me, its eyes two smoldering embers glinting with mischief and malice. I didn't know what it wanted, but I realized I was about to find out. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as the figure took a slow step forward. The cold grip on my wrist tightened, sending a shiver down my spine. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound escaped. The laughter morphed into a low growl, resonating through the trees like a twisted melody. "Let go of me," I finally shouted, pulling against its hold. My adrenaline surged and I kicked at the shadowy figure, hoping to free myself. To my surprise, the grip loosened just enough for me to break away. I scrambled back, my feet slipping on the damp ground. The figure remained still, its eyes never leaving mine, flickering like candles in a gusty wind. "You shouldn't be here," it whispered, the voice a mixture of childlike innocence and something darker. "You were meant to stay away." I wanted to bolt, to run back the way I came, but my feet felt glued to the forest floor. "Who are you?" I forced out, fear mixing with defiance. The figure tilted its head, still creeping closer. "I am the forest. I am what they fear." My mind raced. The stories, the folk tales. It was all real. I'd crossed a threshold I couldn't see, and now I was trapped in a nightmare. But I couldn't let fear rule me. I had to find a way out. "What do you want?" I asked, finding my voice as I squared my shoulders. "I haven't done anything to you." The figure paused, and for a moment its ember-like eyes flickered with a hint of something, curiosity. It stepped into a slant of moonlight, revealing a tattered cloak that hung from its frame, blending seamlessly into the shadows around it. "Why do you seek the candle?" it asked, its tone shifting, almost playful. "Do you think it can give you answers? This place has no answers, only truths you aren't ready to face." I glanced back at the altar where the candle had stood. Maybe there was something in the book that could help me understand this encounter. "I just want to know the truth," I lied. The figure chuckled softly, the sound echoing through the clearing. "Truth is a tricky thing. It comes with a price." Suddenly the laughter faded, leaving an eerie silence that pressed down on me. Before I could respond, the figure lunged forward, wrapping its fingers around my chin and forcing me to meet its gaze. The warmth of its breath was laden with the scent of damp earth and decay. "Do you wish to know the truth?" it said again, and in that moment, everything shifted. It felt like a spell had been cast over me, an unseen force pulling at my will. "It will cost you more than just curiosity." I tried to pull away, but it was as if I was frozen in place. My heart raced, each beat a frantic plea for escape. And then, as quickly as it had come, the hold on me loosened. The figure stepped back, vanishing like a wisp of smoke. Just like that, I was alone again, trembling. But the darkness still lingered, and the silence echoed in the void where that figure had been. I turned back to the altar, drawn once more to the quiet glow of the candle. Despite the fear gnawing at me, despite the warnings, I felt compelled to uncover whatever truth was hidden there. That's when I saw it. A fragment of the box I had found. It lay cracked open at the foot of the altar, darkness spilling from it like ink, with wisps of fog curling around my feet as if beckoning me closer. Not again, I thought as dread wrapped around me. What had I awakened this time? The ground felt alive beneath me, pulsing with energy I couldn't comprehend. I knelt to inspect the fragment further. Dark mist swirled from the broken box and coiled around my ankles, tugging at my resolve. It was as if that darkness had a heartbeat, a presence that whispered secrets just out of reach. I hesitated, heart pounding steadily. What if I had inadvertently opened a doorway? The stories I read had warned of such things. I needed to resist the urge to investigate. But curiosity clawed at my mind. I couldn't just turn away now. I leaned closer, squinting to see if there was anything substantial left inside the box. My fingers brushed the cold surface, and a jolt surged through me as if the box had a life of its own. A faint glow emanated from the depths, illuminating cryptic symbols etched into the wood. "What are you?" I whispered, more to myself than expecting an answer. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the clearing. I jolted back, my heart racing again. I spun around, my eyes scanning the dense trees. Had the figure returned? The forest felt alive, the very air thick with tension. I strained to hear any sounds, but only the whisper of the wind filled the silence. Then, just beyond the tree line, I caught a movement. A shadow darted between the trunks, quick as lightning. Panic grabbed at my throat. There was something out there. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay still, wanting to see what it was without betraying my fear. "Is anyone there?" I called, my voice shaky. No response, just the distant rustling of leaves. I hadn't even finished the sentence when a chill slithered down my back. I turned back to the box, mind racing. Whatever I had disturbed had collective eyes on me now. The glow intensified, and with it a low, melodic hum seemed to rise from the depths of the cracked box. It felt like a song, alluring, yet haunting. Against my better judgment, I leaned in closer, drawn to the rhythm. That's when it happened. The mist surged up, swirling violently, wrapping around my hands as I involuntarily grasped the box. "No!" I shouted, trying to pull away, but it was too late. The shadows enveloped me, swirling like a storm. I felt my breath hitch, and the world around me began to spin. I stumbled backward, releasing my grip, but the darkness thickened, binding my arms. My heart raced as I fought against it, desperate to break free. "Let me go!" I screamed, my voice breaking through the chaos. In a flash, the darkness receded, and I found myself standing alone once more. The forest was still, too quiet, as if it had swallowed my words. The candle flickered dimly on the altar, its flame steady despite the absence of wind. My breath came heavy as I looked around, searching for any sign of the figure. But nothing remained, only the shadows lurking at the edges. I felt it deep within me. Something had been awakened. Just then, a distant echo reached my ears, a laughter mingling with the wind, and I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I turned to face the box once again, dread pooling in my stomach. I caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye, and then something emerged from the darkness clear as day. It was a child no older than 10 with that same ember-like gaze as the figure. My pulse quickened. "What do you want?" I asked, voice trembling. The child smiled, a strange, unsettling grin, and whispered, "Come play." Fear surged through me like a wildfire, and in an instant I turned to run. But as I did, something cold latched onto my ankle, pulling me back into the shadows. I screamed, my voice breaking as cold fingers gripped my ankle. I twisted, trying to shake off whatever had me. My heart raced. The child's laughter echoed in the darkness, growing louder and more menacing. "Let go!" I yelled, flinging my other leg out to kick. I hit nothing but air, just a terrifying sense of emptiness. I panicked and yanked at my leg again. The grip loosened slightly, but it was enough for me to pull free. I stumbled backward, nearly losing my balance. I turned to run, but where was I supposed to go? The forest loomed around me, transforming into a maze of shadows. I darted left, then right, branches scratching at my skin as I pushed past trees. My breath came in frantic bursts. I felt the weight of eyes watching me, 1,000 whispers teasing at the back of my mind. Then I slowed, forced to catch my breath, and that was when I heard it again. The low hum from the box had returned, soft and resonant, a call that invited me to return. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I felt the pull of something deeper. What was it doing? What did it want from me? I crouched behind a tree, the rough bark digging into my shoulder as I peered out into the clearing. The child stood where I had left them, unmoving, simply staring into the darkness. My skin crawled. "It's just a kid," I reassured myself. But that thought did little to ease the dread pooling in my stomach. The candle on the altar flickered violently, as if responding to an unseen force. I could see the box now, still cracked open and emitting that eerie glow. I needed to know. I had already come this far into the night. I stood, heart racing as I took a cautious step forward. "Come play." The child's voice floated to me again, sweet yet sinister. "No," I shouted, firming my resolve. I wasn't just going to walk into whatever this was. I circled slowly, trying to find a way back to the path I'd come from, but the forest seemed to shift, locking me within. But then I froze. Something new caught my eye. A narrow beam of light sliced through the trees, illuminating a trail. I blinked, hardly believing my luck. My escape was right in front of me. I sprinted toward it, branches snapping behind me. The darkness felt thicker now, trying to draw me back. But I pushed harder, heart pounding as I broke through the trees and stumbled onto the path. But as I reached the light, a hand shot out from the shadows, wrapping around my wrist. I gasped, turning to face the figure. The child had followed me, their grin now wide and expectant. "Where are you going?" they asked, tilting their head slightly, the glow from the box illuminating their features. I jerked my arm away. "Stay back." As I glanced around for a way out, I realized the forest had changed shape again. Each direction looked the same, deep thickets of trees closing in around me. The hum from the box grew louder, echoing in my ears. Then I heard a voice, low and soft. "You've opened the door. Now you must play." I spun around, but there was no one there, just the child, still watching with those ember-like eyes. A chill enveloped me as realization set in. The game had just begun. I could feel the weight of dread hanging in the air as I stared at the child. Their icy blue eyes seemed to pierce through the darkness. I took a step back, my heart trying to hammer its way out of my chest. The forest felt alive, closing in, pressing against me from all sides. "Play with me," the child whispered again, the sing-song tone wrapping around my thoughts. It was unsettling how inviting it sounded, as if the forest itself conspired to draw me closer. I clenched my fists, swiping the sweat from my brow. "No!" I shot back, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I'm not playing any games." The child's grin widened, almost impossibly so, and just for a moment, I thought I saw shadows moving behind them, shapes flickering in and out, shifting like smoke. Panic surged up my spine. I had to get out. I turned and ran down the path I had come from. The light at my back felt like a lifeline, but the branches clawed at me, tangling in my hair and clothes. I stumbled over the uneven ground, feet flying beneath me. But as I sprinted, the hum from the box became a cacophonous roar, drowning out my thoughts. Then I heard it, a low, murmuring chorus, voices. They echoed around me and I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It called for me, urged me to return. I shook my head, gritting my teeth to block it out. In my frantic search for an escape, I glanced back toward the child. Panic-stricken, I stopped short. They were now closer, just a few feet away, bodies suddenly rigid. "You have to play," they said, voice still sweet but tinged with something darker. Before I could respond, the ground beneath me trembled, the trees shuddered, and the air thickened. My feet lost their grip on the earth and I stumbled, hands shooting out to brace against a nearby tree. That's when I saw it. Another light, flickering through the blackness, pulsating like a heartbeat. I squinted, hoping it could guide me home, or at least to safety. "Don't you want to come?" The child leaned closer and I felt a cold draft rush past. "You need to play, or it will never end." I tore my gaze from them and charged toward the light ahead. Just as I approached, the ground erupted with a loud crack, and I lost my footing, tumbling down a small hill. The world around me spun, darkness and light intertwining. When I finally landed, disoriented but somehow unharmed, I scrambled to my feet. As I blinked away the haze, something cold clutched my wrist again. I gasped, ready to scream, but nothing was there. The surroundings were different now. I was in a clearing, illuminated by a soft glow, and in the middle stood the box I had seen before. It pulsed rhythmically, calling me closer. I had to get away. I had to. But as I turned to run, the child appeared in the corner of my eye again, blocking my escape. "It's time to play for real," they said with a smile that felt both inviting and threatening. A chill swept down my spine. I had opened something I couldn't contain. There was no turning back now. I stood frozen, the child's words hanging in the air. My instincts screamed at me to run, but a strange force held me in place. The box throbbed softly, its glow a beacon of dread. "You're just scared," the child said, tilting their head. "But we can have fun. It's more exciting this way." They took a step forward, and I stumbled back. "Stop!" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. I darted a glance at the box, each pulse now seeming louder, demanding my attention. What was in it? What had I stumbled into? "No one can hear you." Their voice dropped, edged with a sinister undertone, and I knew they were right. The dense trees swallowed my voice like a thick fog. "But I can help you." Help me, I echoed, raising an eyebrow. Desperation twisted my gut. You want me to play your sick game? The child's smile faltered for a split second, revealing something darker, almost feral behind those innocent eyes. It's not a game if you don't want to play, but... They half-turned, beckoning me toward the box. You might not want to miss what's inside. I felt a chill creep up my spine. Promises danced in the air, tantalizing yet terrifying. I took a step back, heart pounding. The light was getting brighter. It felt like an invitation. But to what? Then I caught movement in my peripheral vision. Shapes drifted around the edges of the clearing. More shadows, more whispers. Panic shot through me. What are you? Just playmates waiting for you, the child said, voice dripping with playful malice. You'll see. You'll all see. Before I could think, I turned on my heel and ran. My lungs burned as I sprinted, pushing through the underbrush, branches snagging my clothes. The laughter of the child echoed behind me, a haunting lullaby. But the shadows weren't just in my head. They swarmed around me, flickering in and out of view, creating a disorienting maze. I stumbled again, desperation clawing at my mind. I couldn't shake them. In a moment of sheer instinct, I ducked beneath low branches to my right and darted into what felt like another path. I didn't stop to see where it led, just kept moving, driven by the need to escape whatever this was. Then I heard it, the low, sinister hum that filled my ears like thunder. The box had followed me, the call pulsating deep within the forest. I pressed my hands against my ears, fighting to block it out, but the sound seeped in. Don't ignore me. It was the child again, now somehow alongside me, their face twisted with glee. You have to play. I couldn't breathe. I forced my legs to move faster. I had to find a way out, a way to escape this nightmare. The trees closed around me, shadowy fingers reaching out, urging me back toward that light. And that's when I saw it. A narrow opening in the trees up ahead, the scent of fresh air wafting through like salvation. I pushed myself harder, lunging toward it, determined to break free from the pull of the box. But just as I reached the edge of the clearing, a sudden weight slammed into me from behind. I fell forward, the wind knocked out of me. I turned to see the child grinning, shadowy forms swirling around them like a storm. It's not over yet, they said, and my heart sank. The opening was gone, swallowed by darkness. I was trapped again, and the game was just beginning. I struggled to my feet, brushing off the damp leaves and dirt. The child stood there, unbothered by my panic, hands clasped behind their back, eyes sparkling with twisted excitement, as if I were the main event in their personal circus. You're not really fast, are you? They taunted, their voice echoing in the stillness. I could feel the shadows closing in, pressing against me, and I needed to think fast. The laughter from before now felt more like a threat than a game. Let me go, I shouted, more forceful than I felt. The child's grin widened, revealing teeth that looked too sharp. Where would be the fun in that? They replied, stepping closer. Why not see what happens if you stay? Something deep within me screamed to run again. But the shadows around me shifted, morphing into more solid figures, faces peering out with hollowed eyes. They reached out, inching closer, eager and hungry, as if I were the feast they'd been waiting for. I backed away until I felt the rough bark of a tree press against my spine. What do you want? I asked, voice trembling. I thought back to that box, the way it pulsed. Was it a source of their power? Your choice, of course, the child said, almost sing-song. You can join us or you can open the box. Open it? I echoed, the weight of dread settling in my gut. What's inside? Something beautiful, they said, tilting their head to one side as if trying to measure my reaction. Or something terrible. Depends on you. My heart raced. I didn't want to see what lay inside, but the thought of joining those shadowy figures was worse. I glanced back at the box, now dimmer but still undeniably alluring, its promise echoing in my mind. A choice loomed before me, and it felt impossible. Just play with us, the child urged, taking another step forward, the air thickening with an unnatural energy. I fought the urge to scream. I could feel dread wrapping around me like chains. I couldn't let it end this way. I couldn't let them win. I took a breath and nodded, surprising myself. "I'll play," I said, surprising even me. "But I want to see what's in the box first." The child's eyes lit up. "Oh, clever!" They clapped their hands, and the shadows cheered like excited children, their laughter ringing through the clearing, only thickening the tension in the air. "But first, you have to catch me." Before I could react, the child sprinted into the depths of the forest, a blur of movement through the trees. Instinct took over, and I chased, desperately weaving through branches and roots, fueled by adrenaline. But the shadows surged with me, their forms growing more distinct, faces grinning with malicious intent. They darted around me, teasing and taunting, painting my path with fear. "Catch me," the child called out, their voice echoing as if I were deep underwater. I pushed myself harder, fear spreading like fire in my veins, but it felt hopeless. Just when I thought I might lose them in the maze of trees, I stumbled upon a small clearing. In the center, the box glowed brighter, casting eerie shadows that flickered like flames. I felt the draw, an irresistible urge to approach it. "That's it," the child whispered, revealing themselves beside the box, beckoning me over. "This is where the real fun begins." I hesitated, my heart racing. I had to make a choice now, and it felt like it would change everything. And that's when I saw it. The lid of the box began to lift. Dark smoke curled out, wrapping itself around my ankles, pulling me closer. I could see shapes dancing within the depths, writhing and shouting, pleading for release. The shadows stood at the edge of the clearing, baring their teeth. I was trapped, and the game had morphed into something far more dangerous. I could feel the dark smoke coiling around my legs, a cold grip hinting at a force beyond my understanding. The child stood beside the box, a twisted grin accentuating their features, waiting for me to take the final step. I felt a flood of panic and confusion. How had I gotten to this point? Each heartbeat echoed in my ears as I stood frozen, caught between the ominous shadows and the swirling darkness emerging from the box. What was inside? Would it grant me answers or bind me to this waking nightmare? I glanced at the child, whose eyes sparkled with an emotion that felt dangerously close to anticipation. "You want to know the truth," they said, their voice low and inviting. "Then you have to open it. Play with us, and you might find what you're looking for." The shadows began to shift, figures emerging from the tree line, specters with hollowed eyes and twisted limbs, drawn to the box like moths to a flame. I could feel their hunger, their collective energy humming around me, intoxicating yet terrifying. The air grew thick with an oppressive presence, as though the forest itself held its breath, waiting for my decision. Desperation clawed at me. I had stumbled upon something profound or horrifying depending on how you looked at it. But I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. In a swift moment of clarity, I lunged for the box, but the smoke twisted around my hands, pulling me back. "No!" I shouted, wrestling against the darkness. The laughter erupted, echoing in the clearing, drowning out my thoughts. "You must catch me first, remember?" the child sang, bouncing on the balls of their feet, unbothered by the chaos around them. With a sudden burst of determination, I broke free from the shadow's hold and dashed toward the box. My heart pounded in my chest, every instinct screaming at me to escape. But as I reached for the lid, something cold clamped down on my shoulder, sending jolts of fear down my spine. I turned to find myself surrounded, their hollowed eyes fixed on me. "What's it going to be?" one shadow whispered, its voice an eerie chorus, chilling me to the bone. "Are you going to play, or will you run away?" "You have to choose," the child said again, delight alight in their vivid eyes. "You can open the box and find the truth, or you can join us and become part of the game." Wrestling my thoughts into focus, I glanced at the box, feeling its pull against my very being. A part of me wanted to understand, to uncover its secrets. But as I stood before it, I also understood that some truths might be better left buried. Suddenly, the whispering shadows surged forward, determined to engage. "Play! Play with us!" they chanted, their voices melding into an echoing cacophony. The intensity of the energy swirled and coalesced around me, drawing nearer, suffocating in its embrace. I recoiled, heart racing. "No!" I shouted against the onslaught, desperate to break free. "I won't play your games!" But in that moment, everything shifted. The darkness erupted around me like a tidal wave, crashing into my every thought. I felt myself drawn back, not toward the shadows, but also toward that strange, glowing box, the choices hanging heavy in the air. "What are you afraid of?" the child asked softly, their tone shifting to something more serious. I paused, grappling with the sensation of being caught between two worlds. Was it fear, then? Or was it something more profound? A realization that navigating this strange reality meant confronting the hidden depths of my own darkness? I took a step back. Maybe. I started slowly, my heart pounding. Maybe I won't choose at all. The shadows pulsed angrily, flickering around the clearing. But as my resolve hardened, the child's grin faltered, confusion flashing across their face. For the first time, they appeared less certain, and the shadows hesitated, chaotic energy dissipating slightly. "I refuse to be a pawn in your game," I declared, the words a surge of defiance. "Whatever is in that box, I won't let it shape me." The laughter receded, replaced by eerie silence. Now, instead of feeling trapped, I felt liberated, the oppressive energy loosening its grip. The pulsating air around us began to quiet, shadows shrinking back, uncertain. Taking a deep breath, I pushed past the box, the dim glow fading as I moved. The child's gaze darkened, their smile transforming. "You can't just walk away," they hissed, shadows roaring back to life, swirling around me once more. But my heart was steadfast. I took off into the forest, rebelling against the laughter echoing behind me. I ran with all my might, feeling the energy shifting all around me. The dark figures faded into the trees, their whispers trailing behind me, echoing my determination. As I navigated the forest, I began to wonder about those shadows, the children of the forest, with their haunting laughter and playful tricks. Were they truly as scary as they seemed? Or were they just remnants of a story merged with my fears? I didn't have the answers when I burst out of the woods, sunlight flooding my senses. The town was quiet, but the lingering sensation of that enchanted forest clung to me. I turned once more to look back, contemplating the mysteries that still awaited within those shadows. In the distance, the wind carried laughter back toward me, gentle but bone-chilling. I realized I would never fully understand what lay in those depths, but I also understood that sometimes the greatest victories come from knowing when to turn away. I never returned to that forest. It still lingers in my thoughts, a conundrum of light and dark, fear and curiosity. I remember the child, the laughter, the box, and the shadows waiting for someone else to open it. I think about what I left behind. Some questions remain unanswered, and that's okay. Maybe it was never about finding the truth. Sometimes, survival requires a delicate dance between them both.